The Golden State Warriors have won 7 straight road games. They've got a Hall of Famer leading the charge, a future Hall of Famer, I apologize. I've got a current Hall of Famer joining me next. Rick Barry, Warriors legend, one of the greatest to ever play. We're going to break down Warriors Knicks. That was a fun one. Let's talk about it. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, every live show exclusive on YouTube. Today's episode is brought to you by Grammarly.
Oh, I use Grammarly all the time.
There you go. What an endorsement right there. Make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at grammarly.com/podcast. You can follow NBA Hall of Famer, one of the top 50 players officially, I say top 25 in NBA history. You're a legend, sir. You can follow Rick Barry on all social media platforms. Same handle everywhere you go, Rick24Barry, the 24 representing your playing number. It hangs up in the rafters of Chase Center. And you can follow me, Cyrus, Saatsaz, on threads at Dog Wild. Rick, great to see you, sir. How are you doing? A lot to break down in that game, but what was your immediate reaction to the Golden State Warriors hanging on? They were leading from beginning to end. I believe it was a 14-0 start to the game, and they finish 110-99. How you doing, sir, and your reaction?
Well, I'm doing great, and I'm just happy that, they're winning, especially winning on the road. And I mean, obviously, that's quite a change from what they did last season. They were brutal on the road last season, and so they made it improve that. And then, of course, we thought it was going to be great again because they started off good on the road, and then all of a sudden they went to hell in a handbasket, and all those problems started. And you had Wiggins struggling, and you had Clay struggling. You had Draymond getting suspended. You had so many things going on. It was worse than a soap opera. But they found a way to, as they use the old cliche, to right the ship. Yep. It was leaning over pretty far. It was kind of like the Titanic there for a while, but fortunately they found a way to plug up the hole, and they've salvaged things, and they put themselves back in contention to become a playoff team, which is the most important thing right now, is to continue playing at this level. I certainly hope that they can continue to do that. Here's the thing. I think they finally come to the realization that, and I'm sure that Steve has had to talk to them, okay? You have to understand that we're trying to win games, and your personal reputation as a player means nothing right now. Mm-hmm. It's about this team, okay? Your minutes should be irrelevant, whether you play 2 or 20 minutes. You've just got to take the same position. It reminds me of our team in 75. People say, what are you talking about? It's 50 years ago, whatever. Hey, you know what? It's the same thing. This is the same sport. Things have changed. The athletes have gotten bigger and stronger and faster, whatever, but the sport is still the same. The game in its basics is still the same. It's a team game. It's an unselfish play on the part of every player. It's a matter of sacrificing to do what's best for the team. And the Warriors, even in the past, when they had their other championships, their first ones after 40 years, they had guys willing to do the sacrifice. And I always bring up, Iggy, and I bring up Lee. They were able. These are all-star players who were willing to come off the bench. And now we have guys on the Warriors who have seemed to finally accept that role. Look at how good Clay has been doing with coming off the bench. Wiggins is accepting coming off the bench. This is what it's about, And then a couple of the young guys are finally getting an opportunity to play. I was glad to see Moody get a chance the other day. Had a big game the other day. I mean, struggled a little bit shooting today. I mean, he was terrible from three-point range, but they still won the game handily. See, that's what all that matters. It's not your stats. It's not how well you did individually. Did the team win the freaking game? And they did. On the road, they won the game, and they didn't have one of their players who had been playing pretty good lately. Wiggs was not available, but they still came out and played convincingly on the road. This is what they need to do. It's fun to see. I hope it continues. And I'm telling you, I've said this to so many interviews that I do all the time. Don't count the Warriors out. If I'm a top 4 playoff team, Okay, going into the playoffs. Okay, if I'm Denver, I mean Denver. Come on, Denver could have easily lost games to the Warriors. I mean, the Warriors are right there. Steph has a horrible shooting game again. They didn't play well, but they were still in the game. They fought. They were going to blow them out of the freaking arena. But to the credit of the defending champions, they came back, tied it at halftime, had a double-digit lead in the third quarter. But the Warriors battled back and got it with time left in the game, and it was a 3-point game. I think they got it down to. And and then their ridiculous turnovers that they do all the time, because I say they're their own worst enemy. If they can control that and continue to play, and play some defense, holding a team under 100 points in the NBA today is pretty remarkable, the way they're scoring points these days. So they're showing signs of really good life. I really like what I'm seeing. I've been saying this now ever since before the All-Star break, that these guys are a team to be reckoned with. And this is another example of a good win against a much improved and a much better Knicks basketball team playing at home. So, terrific win for them. It really was. And nice to see Steph, because, wow, when's the last time you've seen Steph Curry go 3 games, shoot 22%, 3 for 11, 1 for 10, 4 for 16. Now, the beauty of it is he does that and they win 2 of those 3 games. They win 2 of the 3 games with Steph Curry shooting 22% and having horrible games. That shows you what a team is all about. Someone else has to pick up the slack. Clay had a big game, getting 25 in one of those games. This is what it takes to be a championship caliber team, to be a team that's going to be in contention. And I really am pleased with what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. And again, the defense showed up tonight. As you mentioned, this is a league in the modern era where scoring is rampant, and the Golden State Warriors defense put the clamps on tonight, holding the Knicks to under 100 points, 110-99. I real quick, I just want to touch on this because a lot of people in the chat are mentioning it. My dog, I don't know what he's doing right now. I'm hearing a lot of noises. That always concerns me. But I want to mention real fast, because this is going to be all over the news. During the postgame interview, Draymond Green did throw some shade at the Warriors pre and post game host Bonte Hill regarding Hill's comments of Draymond during his suspension. I don't know what those comments were, but I did want to acknowledge it, because there's a lot of people in the chat during our live programs mentioning that they saw that. I saw it too, and I'm sure that's going to be talked about a lot in upcoming days. But yeah, that was bizarre. Rick, have you ever had reporters, broadcasters that you took issue with regarding what they said? Did you ever confront them? How did you deal with media members who you did not find them producing favorable content, incorrect content? How did you handle that during your play days?
First of all, it wasn't anything like it is today. Okay, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have ESPN, we didn't have any of that stuff. I know, but I experienced it the first time when I was in college, and I always remember the one writer. I remember his name still. His name was John Crittenden. He wrote for Miami News, and he did an interview with me, and he asked me one question like this. He said, "Rick, when you're playing and all," because I was the leading scorer in the country, right? And so, Rick, the crowd's yelling, shoot. He said, "Did you hear the crowd?" He said, "Of course I hear the crowd." I said, "But you know what? When I get the ball, I'm looking to try to score. Provided I don't have a teammate in a better position, then he's going to get the basketball. That's just the way I was taught how to play the game." And so the headline was, Rick Barry, "I hear the crowd yell shoot, so I shoot." I said, "What the hell?" I said, "John, here's the deal. If you're not going to write what I say and you're going to take it out of context and change the whole meaning of what I said and everything, I'm not talking to you anymore." Okay, that's a simple way to do it. With that guy over there, all he had to do, don't make a big thing out of it. You're giving him even more publicity. Why even give the idiot who's screwing you up, give him more publicity by coming and making into a big issue that everybody's going to talk about? That guy loves it. His name's being thrown around out there. And this is what they want. They want controversy. So the best thing he could have done is just say nothing and just guy comes and talk to him. I have nothing to say to you.
And that's how it was handled. He was asked a question. Draymond was asked a question about Madison Square Garden in New York City, and it was the shortest, briefest answer imaginable. Yeah, there's clearly something going on there, but I just had to acknowledge it. Rick, when we come back, look, Andrew Wiggins is out indefinitely. Steve Kerr is not saying much other than Wiggins is a private person and it's a private matter. But what I do want to talk about is who's replaced Wiggins in the starting lineup, and that's Moses Moody. I love this kid. I've been waiting a long time for him to get his moment, and now he's getting it, and he's delivering.
Well,
We're
not
going
in
to
this
talk.
game. He didn't deliver. He was 0 for 5 from 3-point range. He's got to shoot the ball better from 3-point range. If he's going to be in the game, we needed him to be. That should be a 2 for 5 game, something of that nature. 0 for 5 isn't going to cut it. He had 8 points. That fortunately, Kuminga is the guy that's really taken advantage of the opportunity he's been getting. Putting up 20-point games left and right, doing a nice job. I still think he needs to go and rebound some more. I mean, rebounding is just a matter of effort and knowing where the ball is going. He's so dang athletic. I mean, just go release sometimes and go get some rebounds and start it. Here's the idea: get a rebound, start it up the floor. You don't have to necessarily throw it to Chris Paul all the time or throw it to Steph or somebody. Let them take off up the floor. Take it, bring it out, then throw it up the floor to somebody. You can do that as a small forward. That's, I think, something that all small forwards should be doing. Don't always count on only having to throw the ball to one guy in a situation, because it becomes predictable. The last thing you want to be as a basketball team is predictable.
Mm-hmm.
I know sometimes when I played, listen, Cyrus, sometimes when I played against certain teams, I knew I could run back to a certain spot after offense, and my guy is going to show up there. That's where he's going to be all the time. He's not going to do anything freaking different. I mean, that's the worst thing possible. And that's the same way. Well, I love it the way the Warriors play and all, because I always said, ideally, I would want, and it's great you got a guy like the Joker. I would want all 5 of my players able to pass and create and see the floor. And then you can have different people initiating the offense. The defense can't really get into a pattern about anything because they don't know where somebody's going to be. It could be, that's why Denver's tough. A lot of times what they do is they give the ball to the Joker and he's running stuff. I mean, and he gets triple doubles all the time. What do you have, 16 assists against the Warriors or 14?
And 16 rebounds.
Yeah,
and
16
rebounds. But Rick, what you said was interesting. So you critique Moses Moody's shooting tonight, which is valid. He was 0 for 5 from beyond the arc. And when we come back, that leads to an interesting question. I hope it's interesting that I'm going to ask you, which is, how important are stats for certain players? Because Moses Moody, I thought defensively was fantastic.
Yeah, and that's good. Here's the deal.
Right.
I'll come back. Go do your little break, and we'll come back.
Right. Well, because it's not just Moody that didn't really necessarily put up the numbers, right? That shined. Brandon Pajemski is another player who I thought was great, but statistically, nothing to rave about. So when we come back, I'd love to get your perspective on just how important these numbers are if the end result is to win, which is what the Warriors did. So we're going to talk about that and so much more. And Rick, I'm going to involve you in this first ad read because it's courtesy of eBay Motors, and it involves fantasy basketball. I'm going to ask for your help here in just a moment. And first up, though, as I mentioned just a moment ago, eBay Motors is our first advertiser for the night. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week, all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire every week, we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit on your roster. So let's see who Josh has picked out for us on this week's eBay's Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Picks of the Week. And Rick, I'm going to name 5 players, and I'd like for you, if you don't mind, to tell me which one of the 5 you want to hear more about from our fantasy expert. The 5 players that Josh Lloyd provided some detailed analysis on is Duop Reith, DeAndre Hunter, Benedict Mathurin, Dennis Schroeder, and Corey Kispert. Which one of those 5 would you like to hear about, sir?
Well, 4 of them, because 4 of them I really don't know much about at all.
I'm not gonna lie. There's one there that I've never heard of until this ad read. Any preference? Which one are you least familiar with, so I can read more about them?
Well, 4 of them I'm not that familiar with, to be honest with you. I'm not broadcasting now, so it's not like I'm following every game and all the teams to be properly prepared to do a broadcast. So I have fun talking about the Warriors and keeping up on various things that are taking place. But to start talking about players who are in a lot of respects inconsequential that might help their team out a little bit, that's not me. That's why you got the guy doing this for you.
Well, why don't we read Duop Reith? I've honestly never heard of this.
Duop. I like just because of his name, Duop.
Exactly. And he plays for the Portland Trailblazers, and Josh Lloyd writes that purely speculation, but if DeAndre Ayton's hand injury is serious, I didn't know DeAndre Ayton had a hand injury, Reith could find himself a starter for the rest of the season, therefore garnering fantasy appeal. And Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof rack, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time. or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You heard me talk a lot about Locked On having a 24/7 sports channel on YouTube. Now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. And Rick Barry, the Hall of Famer, the NBA top 50 player, top 25 in my humble opinion, also has his own program. You and I are doing a doubleheader tonight right after this. If you folks download the Mic'd Up app, it's MIC' up. You and I host live shows there. It's the Rick Barry Show. You can submit voice recordings that Rick and I will answer, mostly Rick, for very good reason. And so come join us there. Rick Barry, you're available on all social media platforms at Rick24Barry. The stat sheet tonight for 2 of the 5 starters for the Golden State Warriors. Brandon Pajemski played 32 minutes in this game, led the team in minutes, but he was just 1 of 6 from the field. His three-point shot, even though he shot 43% in college, not falling so far. That part of his game has not matured to the NBA level. Did have 4 assists, did have 3 rebounds, yet he was a plus 17 in net rating. 2 points for Brandon Pajemski. And then Moses Moody, who you mentioned didn't shoot the ball great from deep, was 0 of 5, finished the game with 8 points. However, Moses Moody led the team in plus minus. So I ask you, Rick, how important are these stats? Does it depend on the player? Your thoughts are?
Well, I think like anything in life, too much of something is no good. I mean, the analytics and the statistical things that exist today, they're nice. It's nice to know that. And if you use them judiciously, they can be beneficial to you at times. But if you rely on them totally, I think you're out of your freaking mind. I mean, basically, Steve Kerr and his assistants are watching that game, and they know their players. You got to get a feel for what's going on, who to put in. You see if somebody's struggling, and you make your decisions based on what's happening in front of you on the court, not necessarily on the statistical aspect. And so if a guy is doing a good job and you're defending well as a team and he's a good part of it, an essential part of it, even though he's not making the shots, you don't necessarily yank him out of the game. Now, if you were trailing and you needed some points, you might have to do that. You take him out of the game because he's struggling offensively. You got to get some offense and you put somebody else in. And that's the thing about the Warriors, that Steve has the luxury of what Al Attles had for us to go 10 deep on this team easily. Because he's got these players, they all have the capability of playing well. And situations like this, to his credit, I'm sure it was because both of those guys were defensively doing a good job and keeping the Knicks under control. And even though they had 2 other guys, Steph, of course, finally, had the big game after the 3 terrible shooting games and shoots 44% from threes, which is more like the Steph Curry that we know and love. And so, and Kuminga's playing well also. So you have a fine little balance. It's the chemistry. How is it working? And this is what happened in the game tonight. So you can justify leaving him, in the game to play the defense while the other guys are taking care of the offense for you. Now, had it been them trailing and doing stuff, I'm pretty darn sure that he would have tried to get somebody else in there, because you got to get some points on the board to try to make up the deficit if you're down double digits. So that was smart on his part to use these guys in the way that they were contributing. And that's the thing, when your offense isn't going well. I always remember my coach in college, who was my father-in-law, Bruce Hale, and a great pro player on his own, always said there's going to be 8 or 10 games during the course of a long season like that where things go offensively, you're not going to be you're going to have a tough time. Okay, because offense is that roller coaster ride. Okay, it's up and down a lot more so than defense, which could be static, and should be as a team. And so when the shot's not going, don't keep jacking up the tough shots. Go to the basket, get fouled, get to the free throw line, go get an offensive rebound, put it in, get a fast break opportunity, do something there. But you got to still be contributing. And so if your defense is good and you're helping, double teaming and stopping guys from getting the basket, keeping your guy off the boards, doing the good little things on the defensive end of the court, you're contributing. And that's what Moody, and that's what the podmaster, I call him the podcaster, the podman, the pod, because it's too easy. It's too hard to pronounce his name. Like, I'm never going to call it. It's always Giannis to me. I'm not going to pronounce his last name. So I mean, so seriously. So the podster, I mean, was doing a nice job creating stuff. He gets an assist. You do what you have to do. And in a way, this is what Chris Paul, I think, has been doing. Another one, throw him into the equation. Another great player who's going to be a Hall of Fame player who's willing to come off the bench, play a role on the team. I mean, my heavens, that's what this is all about. That's why I'm so happy to see this, because that's what the game of basketball should be. And that has been the forte of the Warriors. And one of the reasons they won multiple championships over the last decade is because of that attitude that the players have had and the willing to do what's necessary to help the team win. The Warriors were struggling. They weren't doing that. Finally, the realization has sunk in somehow, some way. They've bought into this and understand what they can do. And I think it's showing by their victories recently.
Absolutely, sir. When we come back, we got to talk about Steph and Kuminga. In my humble opinion, the two best players on this team, and they showed that tonight. Rick, I'd love to get your insights, especially on Kuminga. You and I have been talking about him since his rookie season. I'm personally enamored with the kid. No secret there. It's a pretty obvious statement based on what I've been saying on this show, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. He had a fantastic night, and Steph, of course, was Steph. Just what a phenomenal individual and player. But first, let's give some love to our other sponsors for this evening. And first up on the agenda, who is first up on the agenda? Oh, it's Grammarly. Rick, you are showing this sponsor incredible love just at the start of the show. Yeah. You mentioned your amazing, beautiful wife, Lynn, uses the app. Is that correct?
Well, I use the app all the time. I'm the one that's really into it. My wife does all the stuff when she was working for USA Basketball. No letter went out without going across her desk, because she's really brilliant. I mean, she's so super smart, and she would look at it from a grammatical standpoint, sentence structure, things of those nature. And that's where you get the help with Grammarly. So if you want to write something, you do it. You use the Grammarly app, and it kind of helps you to avoid a lot of the faux pas that people seem to make when they're trying to write something. And it's a great program, no question about it.
And what do you use this for specifically? Emails?
Anything when I'm writing. If I'm writing anything of any importance, I mean, an email, okay, they have some of the stuff there. I mean, in fact, actually, I held some of the stuff when you do texting and stuff. Sometimes they make corrections and stuff. If you don't read it and that, they put something in there you didn't want. So, no, but the Grammarly is good because you go through it, you see where the problems are, they highlight it, you check and see, you can accept it or not accept it. It's very well done, and they keep improving on it all the time. So, yeah, it's a very nice program.
And 96% of Grammarly users report that Grammarly helps them craft more impactful writing. Grammarly works across 500,000 apps and websites. By understanding your writing in context, Grammarly provides relevant, personalized suggestions. Their tone suggestions helps you navigate even the most difficult work conversations. Make a bigger impact at work with Grammarly. Sign up and download for free at Grammarly.com/podcast. That's Grammarly, GRAMMARLY.com/podcast. Easier said, done.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For the everydayers, we're back at this tomorrow. Another post-game show, Warriors and Raptors. A weird scheduling setup by the NBA to have the Warriors play the second of a back-to-back across the border. We've heard Bob Fitzgerald talk about this repeatedly on the broadcast, how difficult of it, or not difficult, but it's a nuisance crossing the border, dealing with customs, and they're going to be on an overnight flight, so they're going to be probably struggling when it comes to sleep for tomorrow's game. Rick, you would know better than me, clearly, if you want to add anything to that. But first of all, before we get into Warriors conversations again, real fast, for folks who want to continue joining us tonight after this show, the Rick Barry Show is available on the Mic'd Up app. Just download it. You can even upload voice recordings. You can upload those during the show. We'll see them pop up right away, and we'll talk about it. Stephen Curry had he's back on track. He every now and again he goes in these little slumps like every human being does. He was 8 of 18 from beyond the arc, 11 of 26 from the field total. Did have 11 rebounds in this game. I think he had 7 1/4 if my memory serves correct. Finished the game with 31 points. And then Jonathan Kuminga. Again, great things happen when Jonathan Kuminga plays. 30 minutes for him tonight. I love seeing him crack that 30-minute barrier. Was 12 of 19 from the field, 25 points, 8 rebounds. Your opinion, sir, on these two players who are leading the way for the Golden State Warriors?
Well, I really like them both. You know that I talked about Kuminga and saw a lot of good things in him when I saw him when he was a rookie. in the summer league and saw some things that because I hadn't seen him at all before.
Right.
And said, well, he has the potential to be a really outstanding player if you give him the opportunity. It's taken a long time for him to get there. But like I say, you can only learn so much sitting and watching. You got to play, and you have to learn through the experience of being out there on the court. Does a lot of good things. He still is a little bit out of control at times, but he does attack the basket relentlessly and with a lot of enthusiasm and power. I wish I could have done the things that he does going to the basket, but some little subtle things that I think he could learn that would help make him even a better player. And of course, he's just got to get a little more consistent with that 3-point shot. Get himself up. If he can get himself up to the 33, 35 percentile on a regular basis from 3-point range, then he becomes a real asset for him. And if I were him, I wouldn't be satisfied with that. I think the goal is to try to go for 40. Now, that's exceptional shooting. But listen, he's got 2 guys that can work with him on his shot. And I think not too bad to have a couple of guys like Clay and Steph on your team to be able to tell them, hey, take a look at my shot. I remember I used to do that with Jeff Mullins. Jeff, I'm having a problem. Jeff, look at my shot. I'm doing something. I don't know what the hell it is. And Jeff would watch me and he saw something. And it's just little subtle things like, Rick, the ball is coming off your fingertips as you're coming down. So I had a little movement in my shot. And so I couldn't pick it up. He picked it up for me. So those are the kind of things that great shooters can do for their teammates. And I'm sure he's, talking to Steph and Clay about that. And they're certainly working with him. But yeah, I like a lot of the things that he does. Again, just a little bit out of control at times, get a few more rebounds and work on that 3-point shot. And I'd love to be able to see him and show him how to go ahead and face up without doing everything off the dribble. But that's something that's kind of a lost art form. It's like the dinosaurs. I want to get back to something you talked about when you're saying playing, with them going up to Toronto to play against the Raptors. So, okay, please don't feel sorry for these guys. They get a chartered freaking plane. Okay, after the game, they get done. They get on a plane. They've got chartered. They've got catered food. They're flying on a jet chartered to get over to the place. We would go. Take our $8 a day or whatever the hell $8 is what we had when I was a rookie. Go out, try to find a place to get something to eat. Go to sleep, maybe fall asleep by 1, 2 in the morning if you're lucky, unwinding. Get up at 6 or 5:30 to get in a taxi cab. In New York, if you were in New York, you get into a cab, get you to the airport for a commercial flight early in the morning to fly and go through all of that commercially to get there. I mean, so please, these guys are doing it. Yeah, it's a little tough, but so what? They'll be in bed after having a great meal, flying in a charter plane. Okay, seriously, and get a really nice good night's sleep up there. And so don't tell me about, man, this is going to be tough for those guys. That's bullshit. They have no idea.
I'm with you. I'm just echoing what Bob Fitzgerald was. I'm 100,000% with you, sir. You're absolutely right. And I want to. I'm sorry. I gotta get back on track here. And the Warriors play the Raptors tomorrow. Rick, one thing that stuck out to me on the stat sheet tonight, one of the strengths of the Warriors this season has been their depth. And real fast, before we get into that too, I just want to add the Warriors with their win tonight have leapfrogged the Lakers. They are now the 9 seed in the Western Conference standings. They're technically tied with the Lakers, but they're a game ahead in the loss column, so that improves their win percentage. They're only 2 games behind the Kings, who have been floundering lately, only 2.5 games behind the Mavericks, only 3 games behind the Suns and Pelicans. So there's still a long ways to go. I believe 25 games remaining. Don't quote me on that. I haven't done the math. But Rick, the starters tonight, even though this team has been solid in terms of depth, when you look at the box score, and it's not surprising if you watch this game beginning to end. Every starter net rating wise was positive. Kuminga plus 19, Moody plus 23, Draymond Green plus 19, Steph plus 20, Pajemski plus 17. Not a single bench player was in the positive in net rating. I personally wish that Gary Payton II got more minutes. I've been a longtime advocate of Trace Jackson Davis getting more minutes just because he had size. I don't think he's a liability out there. Your thoughts on the starters far outperforming the bench in tonight's win?
Well, the starters are supposed to outperform the bench.
Right.
That's the way it's supposed to work. Right. But that's the thing about the Warriors that has always been a factor. Remember when a lot of guys left, when Durant left and other people, I said, well, now the big thing is what you got to get your bench, because your bench has to be able to help you out when you are struggling. And, the bench could certainly do that. Let's look really quickly at the bench here. So they get 17, 21, 31, 37 points. And let's look at the Knicks. 37 points. Well, the Knicks had a couple of guys. They had 24, 33. So they outscored the other bench, the Knicks. So it's a 4-point edge for the Warriors off the bench, which is a critical element, I think, when you're looking at stats and stuff here, is that your bench has got to, like to say, hold the fort, at least not lose the lead if they come in. At least, and sometimes, if you can increase the lead, great. Or even better is if you're struggling and the bench comes in, the bench helps you to go and get back in the game and get a lead. I mean, I've always been a big proponent. I don't see it happen that often. If the starters are struggling, the team is struggling, and the bench guys come in and the bench guys play their butts off and they go and they play great and you're going great going into halftime, how often do you ever see the coach start the guys that finish the first half and start the starters on the bench? I used to do that when I coached. I said, look at guys, we got the lead because of the way these guys played. I'm going to give you guys the opportunity to go out there and continue to do what you're doing, and say, knowing full well that if they aren't doing it, I get to put my starters back in. And so you starters, when you get a chance and you go back in there, you need to do what these guys did in the first half. That's what a team is all about. I can't hear you.
I'm muted. Sorry about that. We're going to continue this party, Rick, on the Mic'd Up app. It's MIC''D space UP. Just download the app. You can literally engage. We can play your voice recordings. So the Rick Barry Show will start immediately after this. Rick, I love you. I think
check this. How do you like this? You see this? See my cup? See what that is?
I do not see your cup. What is that logo on there? Is that you? Who's that?
Oh, take a look at it. That's Karl Malone, right? With the arm over the dunk. Remember that?
Why? That is so random. Where did you get that from?
No, Karl has this. Is part of Karl's thing. In fact, he put a whole package of stuff together for everybody one time and gave everybody, a cup and a whole bunch of nice things and some of the things that he's involved with. Karl's a good guy.
Did you get that at the All-Star game?
With him, though. I want to go up and go to. He's got a great place in Alaska for fishing, and he mentioned sometime about going up. I got to take him up on that one of these days. And then my man Neil Segura, who's a VC guy. That's his company, Defy. I like the word.
Defy. I like that. Yeah. My sister gave me this cheesy Raiders of the Lost Ark shirt, but it's my sister gave it to me, so I'll wear it.
One of my favorite movies.
I agreed. He's my favorite.
One of the great openings of movies. That thing was
100%. When was that at All-Star festivities last weekend? Did you see Karl?
No. This was before another one prior to this.
Great cup, great looking cup, but I had no idea he had his own logo. That's new to me.
Yeah, it's Karl with the dunk and the
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Rick, you are a treasure, sir. And again, we're going to continue this with the Rick Barry Show. Download the Mic'd Up app. The Warriors have now won 7 straight road games. They've leapfrogged the Lakers. They're 9th in the standings. They're creeping up on a whole bunch of other teams, folks. This season has been a roller coaster, and it is far from over. Rick, always a pleasure, sir.
And I'm glad they didn't shoot well other than Clay and Kuminga, but their defense was a big factor in this game. So yes, I'm looking for some good things for them. Hopefully they'll come through and get another win tomorrow.
Yes, it was. Absolutely, Rick. I'll see you in just a second over on Mic'd Up. Thank you, everyone. And we'll be back at this soon. Bye-bye.